Okay, thanks so much for joining us today and taking time out of your day. My name again is Tim Begonis. I'm the CMO here at D-Tools. With me is Seth Enos, who's our SI product manager. And today we're just going to do an overview of our latest update, which is SI 2018 Rev 1. So for those of you who may not have joined us for a webinar before, I just want to give you some housekeeping here. There's a little dialog box on your GoToMeeting panel, which enables you to ask questions, and you can minimize the area by hiding the control panel, hitting the little arrow on the right. And throughout the presentation, I will be monitoring questions. So go ahead and put them in, and I will try and answer them as we go, but then there will be some dedicated time to go over questions at the end of the presentation. So, okay. So what we're going to cover today is just going to give an overview of the new features and enhancements in our latest update to SI 2018. Which is Rev 1. Seth's going to take you through those new enhancements and additions, and we will do a Q&A at the end. We expect this to be a fairly quick webinar, probably 45 minutes tops. We appreciate the time you're taking with us today. For those of you who may not be completely familiar with what we do, SI 2018 is an application that really helps streamline your business processes, primarily around your projects. So being able to dynamically generate project proposals, tie those project documentation and proposals to engineering drawings integrated through Visio and AutoCAD, and then utilizing that same information that's in the bill of materials to be able to manage the project through to completion. So being able to utilize that same information that's in the proposal and the drawings to schedule out install tasks, generate work orders and service orders, connect that information to your back-end systems, to your accounting, to your project managers, being able to generate purchase orders, and really tie that together into a singular process. We also have mobile applications to help with this process from the beginning with scope and budget through our Mobile Quote iOS app and our mobile install web application that enables you to manage your field technicians and install tasks throughout the project. So pretty much a front-to-back solution that's going to help you streamline your processes. And we just released a new version at InfoComm this year, which is SI 2018. And this Rev 1 has added some additional features to help productivity, really around a couple of areas. And those areas are around taxes, and multiple currency support, and this really helps enable some of our not just our international customers, but companies that are working across regions to deal with tax issues, and companies that are doing business in multiple countries, being able to manage the creation of proposals and documentation in multiple currencies. We've also made some enhancements to our customer portal, and Seth will go through those. And as with any one of our releases, one of the things we're always trying to do is to respond to our customer feedback and make productivity enhancements, some small, some large, but generally on a whole, whenever we come up with a revision, there's a number of efficiency gains. And Seth's going to really walk you through the new features of this release. So at this point, I'm going to turn it over to Seth. And if you guys do have any questions, please go ahead and use the questions area within GoToMeeting, and we will try to either answer them in line during the presentation, or again at the end you can ask these questions and we'll answer them as we go. So I'm just going to turn it over to Seth.
All right, thank you, Tim. Hi, everyone. I'm now going to go ahead and give you a run-through of a lot of these new features. Some of them I'm just going to talk about in the beginning here, like we did improve the DPI awareness of our application in this release, and what that means is for any of you that are using 4K monitors, SI was not displaying properly. It was difficult to read, blurry. It did not react to the higher resolution, so now it does, so hopefully that should fix that for everybody. We did make some improvements to clients, actually. It's not a subject we often change out here. Clients are pretty straightforward, but we do have some future enhancements in line. But let me start by showing you, if we go to People, Clients, I'll just show you some fields that we added here. Primarily, if I open this up, the first request that we had for a long time is to be able to add a price type to a client, sign that ahead of time. These are your A, B, C, D, E, F, G, all the way through, I think A through I. There's 12 of them. Price types that you can have. You can name them whatever you want, but you can preset that for your clients now. And if you take a look further down here in the client, in the edit client interface here, you're going to see some of the new features that we've added here as well. So while I'm here, I'll just briefly speak on that. You can assign a default currency to a client now as well. And we'll get into this again as one of those major new features, but how you're going to set a default currency for yourself if you want to use multiple currencies, and then you can choose any specific currency you want to assign to a client that you've identified. We are also going to talk about Avalara tax integration. So here you can add an exemption code to your clients here as well. So again, those are two of the other features there, but I stopped here to show you the price type one. We also added a mass update feature out here for you. It's never existed for clients because we didn't think there was a need to mass update clients in any particular way, but the request came in to update the owner of the client. So as you know, you can assign who the owner of a client is, and some of you may limit your users from only seeing their clients, not everybody else's. But when people do leave companies, you have to reassign clients to somebody, and this gives you a mass update to do that. We also added, of course, some of the new features in here as well. You can mass update price type for multiple clients at a time. There's the owner one I mentioned, but then currency and the Avalara tax exemption code. So that's here. We also added some pagination controls here because we know a lot of you from years of use, I mean, you're building up quite the client list out there, and we just never factored in that you might want pagination controls. So that is here now. So that's a good thing. Another quick change I'll mention before getting into some of the more major ones is we did add a CSV export for reports. So we've always been able to export to Excel, but it would go out as an XLS or an XLSX file. We had the request to make one just a native CSV export to save our users some time. A lot of our users create custom reports that they import into other systems, whether it be an accounting system or a CRM system, and they are getting XLS files, they need to get it into a CSV. So there's an extra step of doing the file save as, and if you've ever done that, you go through that little Microsoft loop of, are you sure you want to save this? Hey, something changed. Do you want it in this format? You're going to lose all this functionality. So you can skip all that now and really just export directly to a CSV. Now, Active Reports, the engine we use, doesn't support CSV export, so we just coded some trickery in the background to make this happen for you all. So that's there. It should save some of you some time, which is a good thing. Let's see here. We added a third decimal place to the amplifiers field. That was, again, a request. Someone needed that. Let's see here. We did change the project number format. So now that you're able to set a start digit, just like we do for component IDs. Let me go ahead and take you there very quickly. I'm going to go to the control panel. We're going to be here quite a bit today with settings. A lot of our new features are out here. And just give me one sec here. Let me scroll down here. As I lose my train of thought here, I'm sorry. There we go, project number. Let me see. And I'm half blind, it seems, so I can't just see what's right in front of me. Here you go. This is project number format. It used to be quite simple. It would just it was up here. Now we added you can choose your separator. We put some defaults in here like slashes and colons. You can also type in whatever value you would like, just like for component IDs, the number of digits for your project numbers, as well as a start number. So again, just did a little improvement there for our users. We heard that was very useful. I am going to now take you very quickly into a project and show you an enhancement we made on a new feature of SI 2018. So when we released SI 2018, we redid change orders. So a whole new method for doing those. Hopefully everyone knows about that. Quite a different model than we used to have, using revisions and then comparing the revisions. We actually have true change order functionality at this point. And again, what that allows you to do is to have multiple pending change orders at a time. You can have internal versus external change orders and all that. So a request came in to be able to reassign items on one pending change order to another. And before we implemented this, what you would have to do is delete those changes and then re-add them back to a different change order. So what we did here is I have an approved project here. You can see I've approved items, and I've got a few items here that are not approved. You can see them here with this little green little plus sign, and I've got 2 pending change orders here. But at any point in time, this is the new feature. If I wanted to move these from whatever change order they're on, and of course, you guys, you can show your layouts and you can actually see what change order they're on. But if I want to change these to another change order, you can either right click and do this or go to your tools menu. And at the bottom of the assign list, we've added change order here. So not only can you say take these 4 items and move them to another existing change order, like I can say move them from 1 to 2, I can also just create a new one and say, no, let's put that on change order 3. So it's going to save you a lot of time from having to do the deletions, because there's always those negotiations with change orders where, hey, we want to approve part of this, but not this other one, but we're not rejecting that other one. We still want to think about it. Can we get another, let's approve these and we'll think about these. So you might want to give them a brand new change order with the other changes. So that's that new feature. Again, always trying to save our users time, especially when they give us great feedback like that. So, all right, next up, customer portal. We're going to go there. So we made 3 enhancements to our customer portal, and they exist under your settings, which happen to be under company information. So let's go ahead and pull this up and go to the customer portal tab here. So these are the 3 new features here at the bottom here, and I'll go through each one of these with you. Auto sign-in. Yes or no? The default will be no, but we have heard a lot of complaints from our users that their clients, the ones they're sending these documents to through Customer Portal, never receive the email that's with their login credentials. Somehow that's getting lost. They end up receiving the email saying, hey, a document's been shared with you, click here, and then when they get out there, they have no idea what their username and password is. They've never seen it before, and so forth. So, and the link I'm talking about, so everyone sees that. Let me just pull over this. We'll talk about this throughout this. But here, a document was shared. You click the view documents. It takes you to log into our customer portal, and that's where they were hitting the brick wall saying, well, I don't know how to log in here. So you can allow your users now to auto sign in. And regardless of whether they've changed their temporary password at all, they're going to be able to just click that link. It will log them in. Once they're logged into Customer Portal, they can, of course, change their password out there and then, immediately forget it. But at least then they can send the, send me my password, forgot my password, and we'll send the email out. 2 other features here: the email display name, and then the reply to email. So let me pull this back over here. One of the other big complaints is that the user or our clients, Details clients, they're your customers, they get the emails, but they simply ignore them because they don't know who Details is. And as you can see up here, this email is coming from Details Customer Portal, and then there's the email address, customerportal@details.com. Well, when we originally designed this, we wanted to give you the ability to customize what email this came from. That way it comes from your domain and all good. Your clients know you, they trust you. That was just not feasible. That really did not allow emails to go through spam filters left and right blocking these. It was pretty bad. That's why we had to remove that feature. So what we were able to do and change for you is the ability to change this name, though. It's still going to come from customerportal@dtools.com. Like I just mentioned, we've got to do that to make this work and actually send those emails. But you can change this name here up front to be whatever you want, and that is this setting here, email display name. I just put my company name there. And then there, what happens now is the other third feature is again, our users' clients would reply to this email. So I don't know how to log into this. What is this? The problem with that is if you reply to this email, it goes back to, again, customerportal@dtools.com, and it's not going to be delivered. Nobody there is monitoring this on our end. It's not going to you. And that's a problem because we didn't foresee this, but a lot of your users are replying to these versus just going to the customer portal. So we fixed all of that here, and that is this setting here, this reply to email. Now, you don't have to set one here if you don't want, but if you do, it should probably be a broad email, as I say. I don't want to say generic, but notice this says sales at domain, not a specific person, because this is a company information setting. So it's up to you whether you want to put, again, a broad email here or not. You could always leave this blank. But when you are publishing to the customer portal, you can also set reply emails to the specific publisher or any other user that's been assigned to that particular document. So that's a really nice little feature there, and I'll demonstrate that for you right now. So let me go here to projects. We'll take this project here. I'm going to go to customer portal, and I'm going to share documents. So this looks all the same. I'm going to quickly, not add a file. Let me add a report. Just give me a quick line item detail by system. Why not? Actually, by location. So I've added that. Then I'm going to go to the recipients and users. Let me just put one of my email addresses here. And you'll notice we added a column down here. So this is the users to notify. So since I'm the one publishing this, it's used as a reply to email. And that's a default. So if you add any of your users, we'll say, okay, another user here, we'll do him, sign, and you can see there, use as reply to email. It's a default, but if you don't want that to be there, you can always take that away. And let me just publish this real quick, or share. I'm not going to add a message here. Let's go ahead and let that share out. Give it a sec here, and I'll wait for my email to come through. And let's just go up here. And the email will come through shortly. It's just doing the PDF right now, doing that. Hey, this document's been successfully shared. You hit OK, and that, of course, you get your indication here. But again, you and your client then get emails letting you know that this was published and shared. So now if you reply to that email, it will go to, in my case, that broad email address plus the user-specific one. Let me go ahead and pull this over and show you. Sorry, I got 3 monitors here. I got to pull over. There we go. Notice here, number 1, the name now says Global Vision Limited above there versus DTools Customer Portal. And then if I go ahead and reply to this, you can see that it goes to me and then that broad one there. So those are the feature enhancements for the Customer Portal. So let's get this out of the way here. Okay, so let's go here. I'm going to now, let's talk about, let's just go through multiple currencies while we're here. I'm going to go back to the control panel. And here we have a new little section out here for settings, and there's currency. So let's first take a look at the currency settings. Now, I've already set this up ahead of time for this demonstration. You check this box to enable multiple currencies, and you'll get warned, trust me, multiple times when you do this. You can't change this or turn this off once you turn it on. Of course, you don't have to use other currencies, but you're still going to pick a default at that point in time, and you'll be stuck with that default. In this case, I chose Australian dollar, and the code comes up AUD, and then there's a culture that you can choose from, and in this case, I chose Christmas Island. And this culture here will often affect how this displays, how the format of your currency, as if we have any users here from the European Union, depending on what country you're in, symbols, the euro will either show in front or behind the number. Sometimes the periods and commas interchange too as well based on the culture. And we've seen that the euro is just an example, but there's also other countries that have currency with different cultures, and then they display differently. And that was important to us to make sure that we added this. This all pulls from your Windows settings. So once you choose your default currency, we filter your list down for an appropriate culture. And again, that's really for the format here. Then once you've done this, once you've decided that you're going to enable multiple currencies, you're going to set up the other currencies you sell in here. And in this case, I've put 3 different ones out here. I'll just show you. If you hit new, this comes up. You can choose any currency that you'd like to choose. Let's go Belarusian ruble. And there's the code, BYN. There's the current exchange rate as of today. We immediately go out and check for that as well. And then I'll need to pick a culture. In this case, there's just 2, Belarus or Russian in this case. Hey, I didn't even know where Belarus was. I was thinking South America. Whoops. Here you can also check your conversion rate online for any of these. You can also do that at any time for any of the existing ones that you have out here if you're not currently adding one. So if I hit update rates, it's going to show us for all of these have changed because I haven't changed these since my last webinar. So there's the rate that's in SI. Here's the online rate for today for these currencies. So I'll go ahead and why not do an update? And of course, we track when it was updated and by who. Now, you can also, if you don't want to go to this level, this is 6 decimals here, but we found that that was necessary for a lot of conversions when we were implementing this. We'll allow rate editing here too. If you come in here and look at this and go, it's 0.52, and that's what I'm going to convert at. More power to you. Go right ahead and you can just edit these to be whatever you would like them to be. So what does that do? Well, I showed you earlier, you can then assign a default currency to a client. You can also assign a default currency to your vendors. So if you're buying products in a different monetary value, I almost said dollar value, but a different money value or different currency, there's the word, you can assign which the default currency is for a particular vendor as well, just like that setting I showed you for clients. When you're creating a project, a service order, or a purchase order, you can also choose a particular currency for those. So I'll demonstrate that with a project. Let's go here, projects, new project. This will open up. I'm going to go ahead and choose a client here. We've got a project name here, currency. And here, down here, right here on the first step, I can use my default currency that I've set, or I can say, nope, let's go ahead and do this one, the South Korean won. So there's the conversion rate for today. And again, you can check right here to make sure that's current. And we'll just go through, well, I could go through all the steps here basically, but for this demonstration, let's just save it. I know I won't have any locations or systems in this particular project. Forgive me for that. But notice up here, the installation price is in Korean won. Then we also show you here the total in your default currency. So let me just dump some products in here. Let's see, do that. I don't need accessories. There you can see the format here is in the Korean won in this particular instance. And it will also display out in your Project Explorer. So I'm going to save this as is right now, close it, and sure, we'll check it in. Now here you can see this. Now, of course, your layouts here, I'm on the price layout, which is why you're going to see all these items here. We added this price type column. That's new. It was just a request to add that out here. But what we've really done over here, when you are multiple currencies, is by default, we're showing you the cost, price, and tax, total price, budget, and all that in your default or native currency. In this case, this is Australian dollar. But if I keep scrolling over, you'll see that we will list the cost, price, tax, total price, and budget in TC. And TC stands for transaction currency. We decided to treat it like that. So it's not just projects that we're using. Transaction currency would be for, of course, sales orders and purchase orders as well. So we went with TC on that one. And as you can see, if the projects don't have that, no worries. But down here, this is set to the Korean won. So there you have the ability to view those. But we did want to make sure that we did do a conversion here because we do have dashboards in the software and we don't want to mix currencies out there on the dashboard. That would be a nightmare. So that is our multiple currency feature. And I'm now going to move straight on to the Avalara tax integration. So before I do that, let me just minimize this and go to another machine here where I haven't set it up yet. And the reason for that is there's two implementations that we put in here for the Avalara tax lookup. And Avalara is a company that does quite a lot with taxes. What we implemented with Avalara is a tax lookup based on addresses in the software. So, and that is going to be free to everyone. You don't have to have an Avalara account to be able to do this. So I'm going to demonstrate that right now with a quick new project. Let's go. New project. I'm going to choose ABC Inc. and I'm going to say this is tax test. As I go through this, you'll notice this is grayed out on this machine because I have not enabled multiple currencies. Let's go ahead and go through this. Contact. I've got the addresses here. And on this very next step is where you would choose your taxes normally. It looks like my defaults are way off here. But what I'm going to do is set this for all applicable products. And I'm going to choose this. Look up taxes based on your project address. So when your settings are set to this one, you know, again, right now I've got 21 and then 6%, quite the mix here. It shows I don't know anything about taxes. So let's let Avalara tell me what I should charge. So if you click this, you can use your site address or your billing address. You can also edit that at this point if needed. If you've got misspellings, if you want to change something or you realize the address is wrong. You can also validate the address if you want. When you click validate, it's going to show this, and then it's going to say, hey, this validated as this. It looks like it added 4 decimals there and southeast here. The road. So you can use the validated address if you'd like, or you can use the original address. Now, I want to clarify here. If you choose use validated address, it will only use that in the tax calculation. It's not going to change your spelling in the project. It's going to stay at this. If you need to change it, go ahead and edit that to be what you want it to be. This is just for the tax calculation. So it doesn't matter really which one you choose as far as what's going to print for your client. I would probably say use the validated address, though, for the tax calculation. And in the next step here, it just did my tax calculation. It said I was in Georgia here. We've got a 4% state tax, a 2% county tax, 6% total. And then we're going to add this tax to the project. So we can add it as just the product tax, as the labor tax, or both. So if you charge labor tax, we probably want to check that and set that 6% across the board there. And then the other option here is for this project, we have to add this as a tax. So it goes to your drop downs and it's selectable. We can add it as a single tax, which will just be 6%, or we'll add it as a tax group here that'll ultimately be 6%, but we would, of course, list the 4 and the 2. That's all a personal preference. Some users like to break out their taxes in very detailed method at the end of their proposals. So you perhaps maybe would do a group on that. But either way, I'm going to leave it as a single tax. And if you want to update this to your catalog, you can. So you can then reuse it later on. And it will go in with whatever name you type in here. We just went with the city, state, and the zip code. I do want to point out that this address lookup does only work for the U.S. addresses and Canadian addresses, I should say, U.S. and Canadian, but nowhere else yet. But if we're good with this, we're going to hit finish, and it's calculated my taxes now to be 6% for both of these. And so that's the free version. Everybody's going to get to be able to do that on your transactions within our software. Very, very cool. So I'm actually going to cancel out of this because you've seen the feature as far as it told me it was 6%. Before I go back to my other machine, though, I'm going to go here and show you the settings for this. Under the control panel up here, there's an Avalara tax integration. So if you open this up, this is where, if you do have a paid account with Avalara, this is where you would want to enter your credentials, and then it will give you a lot more functionality and flexibility in the software. So as soon as you choose to enable this integration, you will need an Avalara account ID and license key, and then choose whether you're in production or a sandbox. Most of you would be in a production environment, but we do understand some of you may be testing, so we do have that option there for sandbox. Here are the default product tax codes that we set. Now, so here's the big difference. When you implement this, you put your information here. Every product now in your catalog is going to require a tax code and potentially a labor tax code. It's just how Avalara does their lookups and all that. So these are just the default ones. We'll see those a little bit later, but you could select anything you want to be your default product tax code. And of course, that's just your default, mind you. In your catalog, you can have products and groups of products that are set to a particular tax code. And if you've never looked at, like, say, Avalara tax codes or any other company that does online tax codes, you would not believe the variety of tax codes are out there for merchandise. Now, this is an entire list that you're going to see in a little bit. Stuff you probably don't sell, but it's out there. It's interesting. But depending on where you are, you know, what your address is and where you're selling and what kind of product it is, it may be taxed differently. It may not be taxed at all. That's what Avalara figures out for you. So that's your default. And then you can decide down here, calculate automatically when running a report. If you do this and don't choose to prompt in case products don't have any Avalara tax codes assigned, we'll simply use this default. Prompting might be a good option though if you have different tax codes that you want to set and you have to look at the item and go, wait a minute, that's wire, that's this tax code, not this one. You probably want to be prompted. Some of you we know are going to set this up and all of your items will have one particular tax code and a particular labor code. You're good to go to just use your defaults if you want those to set. But for everyone else, you might want to be prompted here. And that's the settings I have on the other machine. I'm going to show you in a second. So I just didn't want to give away my account ID and license key. So that's how you set up the Avalara tax integration. Now back to the other machine. I'm going to take you out just to show you on my products here. Just open a product. Go to the price tab here. Down here, there's an Avalara tax code and Avalara labor tax code. If you hit select, this is going to pull up the ability to set the tax code. Right now, we're filtered to products, but you could look labor or service because they have a ton of codes. I couldn't tell you how many are in this list, but just again, to give you an idea of what they have in here, books, manuals, wheel diameter 14, what is that? Greater than 14 inches, costing less or $200. Like they really tax these things differently throughout the world, apparently. All this clothing you can see. Yeah, so when you are setting up your catalog here, you don't have to do this individually. For items, you can do a mass update. You could filter and say, okay, all my wire and cable get this particular tax code, great. Filter down, run your queries, whatever you need to do a mass update to do this versus individually. But I did want to show you this massive list of how things could be sold differently. Pipe tobacco. So that's what gets set up here. So before I go any further, I'm going to create a project with you and just kind of show you the calculation. I told you I set mine to automatically calculate, but there are ways you can manually calculate it at any point too. So give me one sec here. Projects, manage projects. I'm going to do a new project. I'm going to choose this client. It's going to say Avalara example, not test. I'm not testing anything. So we'll go here. We'll go here, go here. Now, when you are set to this, taxes are set on each product and labor. That is the setting that has to change when you are using Avalara, because as you saw, each product has its own tax code. You don't get this lookup tax option. That comes later. That's the freebie one. If you're paying, again, for a service from Avalara, where the taxes really come into play are when you are running a report or when you manually choose it. So let me show you. I'm going to pull in some items here. Again, cancel. Some of these may or may not have codes assigned to them. I can't remember from my last webinar, so they may or may not have tax codes. But just so you see, there is a manual setting. So if you choose to not do the calculate automatically at any point in time, you can come here and say calculate tax using Avalara, and it will walk you through a wizard to do that. If you choose to do it automatically, we skip the address validation, and you'll see in a second what I mean. You saw the address validation earlier, but it is part of the wizard if you want to go back and validate your address. But as part of the automatic, we took that feature away, or I should say we skipped those steps to save you some time. So since I'm set to automatic, when I go to run a report now, and I've also chosen to prompt it if I'm missing, let's just run this report here. Now calculating. It says 17 items in your project do not have Avalara tax codes assigned. Assign Avalara tax code to these items. And looks like that would be all of them. So I don't have any tax codes. So I'm going to choose yes. This opens up a little wizard here. And like I said, we skip the address validation steps and take you right here. We're being prompted now because all of my stuff is missing a tax code. Now, when we have your default sitting down here, this does tell you in this little message, hey, if you just hit next here without assigning these, we're going to use these defaults. We're just going to set those there, and we'll go from there. But you do have the option here to say, oh, wait a minute, these things, they're not this 000, they're something else. So we can then say update the tax code and pick something out of here. I can randomly pick something. I'll do that one. Why not? So I've assigned that tax code to those, and the rest here I'll leave blank, and it will inherit this because that's what it says. If you don't assign them, we're going to go ahead and use these defaults. Now, just to show you, if I back up a step here, step 1 is the from address. Step 2 is the client address. We have site and billing. This client here has an exemption code set on them, but let me show you that. We didn't look at this earlier, so you can absolutely have codes set here for a user. So for my example to work, I better set them as taxable. We'll go here, hit next, and this is what it determined, that the ones that I set to that DI code are not taxed here in Georgia, apparently. The tangible property tax is whatever this came up with. Actually, I'm sorry, the other address we used, 8.75 apparently. I must have a California address or something. Yep, California, and then the no state, in California apparently there's no labor tax. Sorry, I'm out of Georgia. So this is what it's saying my taxes, and we can apply that to the project. Once again, as a single tax or as a group, and hey, do you want to update this to your catalog for future use? Totally optional, but you can see you do get a lot more detail on your items when you can set a tax code specifically for each one. And again, those are for certain states and counties in the U.S. that need different codes. This was just my example here, but why not? We'll apply this to the project. And those that were not taxed, and that just shows up here. So, oh yeah, let's say there's my address, the California address, hence my tax code. Well, everyone, that really completes the demonstration of the new features in R1. From the Avalara tax code, working backwards, we showed multi-currency, we showed the enhancements to the customer portal, as well as a handful of other client enhancements, some reporting enhancements out there to help speed up your process when you're creating products inside of SI. We can now open this up for Q&A.